Test one. Okay. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Yeah. Here. No, no, here. Mm-hmm. Yep. No, no, no. Go ahead. I'm good. That's good. Yeah. No, I don't have it. No. Thank you. Well, we say good evening to everyone, and we thank and praise God. It is 6:45, and we are going to start our Africa 2024 missions presentation. We thank you all for coming, and our visitor, we see Mrs. Levy. Thank you for being with us. Amen. But thank you all so much. We had a great experience back in April with the opportunity to go back on the mission field, and as we went to Kenya, Africa, this year. And so this presentation is a presentation for you, Second Baptist, to see what your contributions did and the impact that it's had and will have, continue to have, in the country of, on the continent of Africa, specifically in Kenya. We look forward to traveling again next year. And again, we say it's not a vacation trip, it's a work trip. And so we encourage others to come. But we want to let you see some of the work that's being done and taking place in the impact in the lives that we are touching, so that you would know that when we come and request for funds, as again, we're diligent with what we do. We're good stewards over what God has given us, but that these funds are being taken to on the ground, boots on the ground, and not going through a bunch of organizational fees and assessments and things like that. Our money goes directly to help the people that we're engaging with in Kenya. So, as we begin our presentation, this first slide you're looking at, this tree, 24 years ago, the last time I went to the mission field in Kenya, we went to the villages. This time we did not get to go to the villages because of some scheduling and departure conflicts. Before we were able to leave, we were supposed to leave on Monday, arrive in Africa on Tuesday, and have 6 days of ministry. We got to the airport Monday morning. I checked in, got my luggage tags, went to security and waited. For some reason, Pastor Days was held up for about 45 minutes. Then he finally gets through and he says he had to fill out this form that they helped him fill out. He asked me, do you have the form? I said, no, I don't have it. He said, well, then how'd you get through? I said, the favor of God. So we get through. And so we go through security. We get to the gate. We spend 3 hours waiting for the flight. It's time to get on the flight. We had to change flight because our original flight was canceled, but they put us on another airline going through Amsterdam instead of direct. Well, as we go to get on the plane, I go to the desk to try to make sure I get an extra row seat for my legs. And the guy said, you want to board early? Again, favor of God. Let's go. I had to go find Pastor. He comes up. He gets on the plane. I go to get on the plane. They stop me. He said, you can't get on. So after about 20 minutes, he comes off the plane looking for me. And there's like, you can't come off. He said, well, we're traveling together. He said, what's the delay? I said, they won't let me in. And I had the form. I'm showing them the form. However, the form that I had was the application. It's called an ETA form. And Kenya uses that to allow and permit entry into Africa, into Kenya. Well, our travel agent didn't tell us. The airline didn't tell us. And our travel agent was not Val, so it wasn't Val. So it wasn't her. And the airline did not tell us. And so what happened when they didn't have the form, they said, we're not allowed to put you on the plane because Kenya would not let you in. And they said, truth of the matter is, if you get to Amsterdam, they're going to turn around and send you back. So Pastor came off of the plane. He said, well, I have this form. And they said, you have the same form he has. You don't belong on the plane either. They called up, take their luggage off the plane. And so they took our luggage off the plane. And we, you know what? Sometimes things happen. Now, it was a blessing that it just Pastor and I went. Pastor and I, we haven't traveled together in some time since India. We went to India together years ago. But there was a lot of confusion. But yet with us two together, it was cool. Delta Airline, who we were going to fly out, they were so very nice. And just so happened, the young lady who was taking care of us, her name was Christian. And so as I made comment to Pastor about how nice she was being and kind to us, she said, well, we'll put y'all up in the hotel tonight, and hopefully you'll have your receipt back tomorrow. The sky was moving even in the day. They said, we can only put you up in one night, but if you don't have the form tomorrow, you have to stay on your own. So we said, thank you so much. And this is how much God blessed us. They said, you want one room or two? I said, I don't want to sleep with him tonight. Give us two. So they gave us 2 rooms. Not only did they give us 2 rooms, they gave us the transportation and the food voucher. God is amazing. Amen. So we stayed there on Monday night in hopes to leave on Tuesday. Wake up on Tuesday morning, Kenya, the authority, was asking us for more information that we already sent. So we resubmitted that information, went back to the airport again, and by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we still hadn't received it. They weren't letting us on the plane. So we resolved, we went back to a different hotel. We got a room, and we stayed one night in New York. Don't stay in New York during the April season. $480 for one room, one night. So we stayed in New York for that one night. Praying and made the agreement that if we didn't have our paperwork come Wednesday, we were going to come back home. It wasn't meant to be. Around 1 o'clock or so, my phone goes off. I get approved. I received my form. So I was happy, I didn't wake Pastor up. He wake up about 5:30. He said, you get anything? I said, yeah, I got my form approved. Check your phone. He checks his phone. They're asking for the same information over again that we had already submitted 2 days in a row. So as he's submitting the information, I said, okay, Lord, I'm writing thank y'all so much. Y'all been so helpful. Could y'all please help my travel mate? Y'all are the best people in the world. We just need somebody to get in. And within 20 minutes, he got his approval. So we were able to leave New York on Wednesday. Mind you, we were supposed to be there on Tuesday. That put us not arriving in Africa until Thursday. So now we got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, coming home Monday. This tree, as I said, was when I was in Africa 24 years ago in 2000, riding from the village. I'll never forget, it's like I'm near now. There was a tree like this. And coming from the village, the dirt was red, just like what you see. And my only thought when I left that village 24 years ago was how many of our people hung on that tree, and how much of their blood is making that dirt red. I had never seen red dirt so much like that before. And so it made me think 24 years ago. Here it is, only God. When we get to our place we were staying at, we stayed at a Christian center in Kenya. This picture was on the wall in my room. Only God. And so we praise God. So we arrive in Kenya on Thursday. Now let me tell you, Kenya, I know what we see on TV, that's not the thought. The city of Kenya is like New York City. you'll think you're in New York. This is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It looks just like something here in New York. Ministry of Education. You have large, grand buildings. This is Kenya. This is a street fair type area. If you want to buy souvenirs and gifts, you go out and it's a large park, fenced in, with all these vendors inside. And as soon as you walk in, 5,000 people chase you down trying to get you to buy stuff. I was like, now Pastor Dave's enjoyed it. I was like, man, I'm ready to go. But it is, so when you think about Kenya, you see the background, see the high rises. That is taking place all throughout Kenya. It looked totally different than when I was there 24 years ago. But even 24 years ago, I thought the city of Kenya to me was like New York City. So it's the picture that we often have, the picture that we always see on TV when they're begging for money, 35 cents could help this kid feed. That's not everywhere in Africa. There's parts when you get to the village, they're still living primitively, but that's not everywhere in Africa. So again, this is, we took coming in, this is the old train station that they had, and on this is downtown. When we went down to just view the area, as you went down in, there was a bunch of buses that were blocking the road coming out. Well, somebody runs up to the truck and says, if you want to get out, 100 shillings. We're like, man, we ain't give you no money. He said, okay, you're going to be back. So our driver, we had a driver, he kept driving us around. And eventually, we went back to that guy. And they had a little chain that they had across these two little brick pillars. They unloosened the chain. We drove through there and got out. He said, I knew y'all come back to me eventually. But if you think about it, 100 shillings is equal to 75 cents. So I know somebody said, 100 shillings. It's equal to 75 cents. So I want to show you, what the city of Africa looks like. Our first day in Africa, we were met by a good friend of ours. He used to be a member of Second Baptist Church of Atlantic City with us. And his name is Reverend Kwame Rubadiri. That's he and his wife, Emmy. Reverend Kwame was with us at Second Baptist. Matter of fact, he was my ordination mentor when I got ordained. But he's been back in Africa now, and he's the assistant pastor at Sedum Church in Nairobi, Kenya. And he met us on the first day. He had our driver pick us up from the airport. And Kwame just didn't realize that our 7 days had been shrunk to 4. Because from the time we landed, he had us meeting people. That's Kwame to my right, to my left, Pastor Dave's to my right with the fatigue, and to the right, that's Bishop Gordon. Now, Gordon is his first name because I can't pronounce his last name. But we met him, and he is the pastor of ICC. And ICC is International Christian Center. ICC has 14 campuses around the area vicinity of Kenya. And we'll see some of those churches later. We met with him after getting off the plane. Now, mind you, our flight over was 14 hours. I stayed awake the entire time. So when we got off the plane, I was tired. Pastor Dave slept a little bit, but I was tired. But yet, Kwame had meetings scheduled for us as soon as we arrived in Africa. We met with Bishop, and we had lunch, and we probably talked about ministry, different opportunities to work, and different things we can do intercontinentally and with them in Africa and us in the U.S., and how we could work together in the future coming to do ministry in Africa. We met probably for about 2 or 3 hours. We left the meeting with Bishop, and then after that, we went in and checked in at our guest quarters where we were staying at. We stayed at the Anglican guest house in Nairobi. Again, it's a Christian retreat center that's owned by the Anglican Church, and it's open. They have a lot of these resorts, or not resorts, but centers where if you're on a mission field or you're a Christian, you don't want to stay in a regular hotel, that they provide. Comfortable place. Again, I knew it was the right place for us to be because when I got in my room, that picture was on the wall. And so I knew God was with us. And of course, since we got in, I hadn't slept. We were tired. We had a 3-hour meeting when we first arrived. I assumed we were going here to check in, get our rooms, and go to sleep until we had another meeting at about 7 o'clock. They came to the house. This is Pastor Peter. I can't remember Peter's last name. I'm not even going to pronounce last name. And to the right is Pastor Frank. And we met with them again, talking about ministry opportunities and strategy. We were praying for Pastor Peter because when we were leaving on Sunday, we found out his mother had a stroke and went home to be with the Lord. So keep Pastor Peter lifted up. And we're looking at some of these pastors to come over in fellowship. We talked about having fellowship with not only with us going over there, but with them coming over to us. And so I guess we'll have to send the trustees a new international rate too when we get international pastors to come. But we indeed had a great time of conversation. So much is happening and taking place in Africa, and we will see through the slides how we can make an impact in Africa. So we met with them. The next morning, there was a 7 o'clock meeting plan that I did not make. But Pastor went there and they spoke about strategies. And matter of fact, they got there at 7 o'clock. The meeting didn't start till 8 o'clock. Now I was ready, but they left me, but I was still. They talked about different strategies and things that they could work on together in the future. It was some of Bishop's, Gordon's leading ministers. Again, they have 14 campuses, so they put a lot of the leaders, a lot of the business members of his church, and they are really into entrepreneurship. They're into entrepreneurship and really encouraging their members to branch out and try to come out of the box. And so we were talking about different strategies and things to come out of the box, both in Africa and here in America. Now, one thing that we want to really emphasize, I've been talking with a couple people this week as we led up to this week. We'll see different pictures and things like that, but we really need to understand how blessed we are as a body of believers, as a people here in this country. And that when we think we have it bad, all we really need to do sometimes is take a look and see that others have it worse. So let me just go to that part. Here you have pictures. It's an area called Gedori area. And now this picture, look very closely. This picture, this picture. What are these? Anybody know what these are? They're homes. They're homes. Metal roof, tin roofs, tin walls. Some have cardboard roofs, some have cardboard walls. And what do you think happens when it rains? And they get wet inside their homes. This Gedori area is the largest poverty-stricken area in Kenya with 2 million people. And this area is about, it's on both sides of the highway. And it's about a 2 or 3 mile stretch, but on both sides of the highway, this is all you see. Lo and behold, I'll get to that in a little bit, but lo and behold, when I preached on Sunday, Pastor preached at the main church of ICC. I preached at one of the campuses. And little did I know that where I preached at was right around the corner from this neighborhood. And so when we were leaving church, I said to my driver, "Can we drive through?" Now, this is an African driver. He said, "Oh, no. No. I said, "We can't." He said, "No, not without the police." So I said, "Well, what about you?" He said, "I can't go through there." You know, we saw people walking. I said, "Well, what about the people who are walking through? If they live there, they're known, they're all right." When you talk about poverty, sometimes we need to look at these pictures to understand how blessed we are and how much we take for granted. Because in Gedori area, they have no running water. They have no sewer system. We talked about the little flooding we had at the parsonage because of the sump pump. They don't have sump pump or bathrooms. But in the area, when you drive through, you can literally smell it because they dig up holes. Then they cover those holes up and dig a new hole. And you can literally smell the stench as you're riding through. And it's very important, and I want to stress these pictures, that we see these pictures because this is the little stores on the street that people just pop up. They sell limes and oranges and whatever they can get their hold on. They set up little stores, makeshift. Now, this is not even tin. This is tarp as a roof. But their little stores act in 2 phases. It's a store by day and a home at night. how comfortable are we? How much do we just take for granted that, and then we complain sometimes that life is hard? When we see folks who live like this every day. And so this is really, when we talk about making an impact, we're talking about being able to touch folks who are on the ground who really need the help. And that's why when I first got here and I shared about when you send to organizations how much administrative money goes to the organization but not to the people. This allows us to be in direct contact with the people because we connect with people who are there on the ground and have the ability to make those connections with those who need help, that we can assist them. These are just some more, this is the other side of the highway. And as you look, you can just see for miles, all you see is those tin roofs. Now, can you imagine walking through that neighborhood or living in that situation? That even in our worst projects in America, it's still better living than this. If you have unfortunate to think that you've come up in some place that was hard or difficult, just imagine this. Look at that. That's trash. See the dog? That's trash. No trash pickup. No recycle bins. That's garbage. And I don't know whether that's a dog or a pig or something. But that's how they live. Anybody grateful to God today? One thing, however, they continue to work. They work hard. You will see little pop-up shop stores all over Kenya as you ride through. And, you would think, what are they selling that for? To live. And there might be 2 or 3 people selling the same thing 200 feet away from each other. They're doing it to survive. You can be driving down the highway and traffic will stop. What is traffic stopping for? Because you have 2 or 3 guys in the middle of the road who start doing acrobatics right in front of you, holding each other, one standing on the ground, holding the other up with a handstand, and they're doing all this acrobatic stuff, and they want you to sit there and watch, but when they're done the acrobatics, they come out with the bucket for you to give a gift. And you never really know how bad it is there to see it firsthand. Yes. Any questions, please just stop me and just, let me know. Well, you'll see some of the stuff is like a lot of fruit and stuff like that they cut. Well, I don't know how they obtain it, but they're selling it for money. I said 1 shilling is worth about 75 cents American, but they're selling it. How they obtained it, I really don't know. I would think that a lot of the fruits and vegetables they just take from trees or things like that. You will see a lot of clothes hanging on the side of the road, and a lot of times, is even when we first went to Africa, when I first went in 2000, learned that a lot of things were often gone through before it got down to the people by who? Their own governments. We have a lot of stuff going on in the USA, in the good old USA. A lot of activities, a lot of things we complain about. But I'll tell you this, I wouldn't want to live nowhere else. And all this craziness and chaos we got, wouldn't want to live nowhere else. Well, in Gadori, remember Gadori I showed you? This area here, you can't walk through there. Now, there's other parts of Kenya that we were in, you could walk through the neighborhoods. But even being a stranger, outsider, it just would be better off to be with people. I wouldn't at night go off. Every place we went to for fellowship, for church, even the Christian center we stayed at, everyone has armed guards at the gate. And in order to get on the property of everywhere, you have to go through a gate. And they all have armed guards. So you'll see security who is armed. Then you'll see in blue, you'll see the police. Then you'll see in red with like automatic machine guns, army. And then there's another group who has big rifles too. So they have a lot of layers, especially downtown. But no, you don't want to walk through these neighborhoods. You can't walk through these neighborhoods alone. So we see here what some of the folks, how they live and what some of the things that they go through. Then, again, we want to talk about and seeing how we can make a difference. I think one of the biggest things that we can make a difference in is support of a orphanage that we've come into contact with and we've been supporting. And this orphanage, here it is, it's called Children's Home. Children's Home was started about 60 years ago by Pastor Moses. And this young man here is Pastor Moses. Pastor Moses is now 83, 84 years old. He's completely blind, totally blind. He's been working with these children in Kenya who have been left and abandoned for over 60 years. You know, he's full of wisdom. I think Sunday I preached a sermon, Wisdom Speaks. So sitting there talking with him was just an incredible experience for me. And having him share some of the things he's been through, some of the work he's done and what God has done in his life and in the life of some of the kids that he has been able to bless. So we sat there and we had conversation. His granddaughter came, and he shared one interesting story with us. He said that he was asked by someone, you know, Pastor Moses, that's his name, Moses, you have been doing all this work for these kids and working for God all these years, and you're blind. He hasn't given you your sight back. What is it? Why come your God hasn't? And he said, stop. He said, God doesn't owe me anything. This is his words. He said, I've been blessed with all these years to help these children. And whether I have my sight or not, God is still good. He said that while we were sitting there. And I could have sat there all day and just listened to him talk because he was wisdom speaking. And so one of the greatest joys was, after meeting Pastor Moses and hearing his story, this is the house mother. She more or less runs the house. And she takes care of all the kids. Currently, this orphanage, now mind you, second, this is the orphanage that we paid to send the kids to school next semester, remember? We sent $1,500. Well, if you want to know how much that cost, because when we were asking, that was 45,000 shillings. I don't know if you hear 45,000, like ain't nobody got no money like that. But that was only $1,500 for US. And she's the house mother. And this is where the difference begins. When you see that you can make a difference in the lives of kids like this. Now, all these kids, I'm going to just show you their faces. I don't remember all their names. I couldn't get them all because they were saying and talking fast. And, you know, I can't, I'm not good with those names. It's like some of y'all, you know, grandkids over here with those names I just can't pronounce. But when you see these faces of young people, at their orphanage, they range from 7 to 17. And all of them have a desire not to be there, but to do better in life. But it's opportunity. Now, the reason why we sent that $1,500 for them to go to school is because school is free, yet they have to pay for their uniforms. They have to pay for their desks. So I was like, do they bring the desk home? Is it theirs? No. It's like an assessment for them to have a desk in the school building. They have to pay for their activities. And to send these babies to school with $1,500 for all of them to attend school. This young man is a young man who was brought up from 2 years old in the orphanage. He is now 28, but he works there and helps them out, trying to find a job and employment, which we think is hard to find a job here when we have so many jobs people ain't applying. But he's trying to find a job and they just don't have them and the opportunities. Because think about it now, when we talk about somebody making 30 shillings a week, we really talk about somebody who's making $15 a week, U.S. And how many of us could survive off of that? I know you've been so blessed all your life. And so he's working there, giving back to the home that helped raise him. Here in this picture, there's a young man in the white shirt with the green in the back. His name is Moses. Not named after the pastor, but they named him Moses because his mother gave birth to him and left him right on the side of the Nairobi River. And they found him right on the side of the river. He's now 17 years old. They were saying, and we talked about adoption and things like that. The government is not helping the orphanages now. They're not as you would think that the government aid and assistance. We have so many things here, systems, support systems, and things like that a lot of people take advantage of. Well, they don't do that over there. And so you see places like that that are really just doing all they can to provide for these young people. Some of them, I stood next to a couple of the young boys' fathers, and they just went like this. And so, it was just a good time. There he is. To see that we can really make a difference and impact the lives of some of these young people. And you know what? They don't want much. Our young people today want $400, $500, $300 sneakers. And they think they're supposed to get them because you work. You work. And they feel a sense of entitlement that they're supposed to get them. They don't want much. Because you may not see their feet, but some of them just have flip-flops on. See? See the sandals? That they wear every day. And watch this. They're grateful to get a pair of sandals. A pair of sneakers, $20 sneakers, they'd go crazy. But they're grateful for this pair of 50-cent sandals that's provided through the assistance of helping out this orphanage. And so this orphanage and these young people, Pastor Moses, you see behind us, that's the gate that secures them inside their facility. They don't have an armed security guard, but most individual homes or residences in this area are secure with a gate and bolted down. Why? This is the neighborhood that takes us to the orphanage. Now, you talk about people driving crazy. Now, people are walking right down the middle of the street. Motorcycles are flying like that guy in front of us. Cars are going down there. That blue truck is coming straight at us. And people are just walking like traffic's not even on the road. Listen, can I say one thing to y'all? Y'all don't laugh at me? I was scared. In the car. I am serious. Because they were driving, and our driver was driving us, and they over lumps and hitting bumps, and this is just the neighborhood. And again, as we're going back to the orphanage, you can see on the side, people make makeshift little stores, and folks walking around. If you can look straight back and look up, you'll see the apartments on the right and left. These areas are areas that I think not many would be able to really survive in or want to be in. These are the streets. Now we're outside of the city of Nairobi, but we're not in the village. We're still in Nairobi, but on the outskirts. Yes. Good question. In the daytime, it was nice, probably about 80 something, but at night, it rained every night. Every night. Now, rain season is March, but for some reason they told us it did not rain in March. They waited for us to get there. And it rained every night, and this is what we had to deal with the next day. Flooding and mud, and as we're driving back to the places, this was what we dealt with. And now, mind you, what you just saw, the people are still walking through this, they're still living. It's like nothing to them. It's like they do what they do. We're not going to mess up our red bottoms, real or fake, but whatever they are, because we're not going to get them into the mud. And so there's just so many things that we see, and it really reminds us just how blessed we are to be where we are. Now, tourists in the city of Nairobi, in downtown, the area I showed you the pictures of downtown, they have hotels and things like that. I'll show you a hotel that we went to the last day before we came home after we preached. Bishop took us out to eat. It was a Radisson, a beautiful place. Now that you said that, sis, let me go to it now. I'm skipping ahead, but while I'm thinking about it, it was a Radisson hotel, and they took us there for dinner. Beautiful place. You want to talk about the view? Who would want to go there? Anybody want to go there? Yeah, I see your hands. But wait a minute. You want to go there? Now, who want to go there? Same place. Two different sides of a coin. And you know, it just really, again, I have to emphasize it again, how much we have to be grateful and thankful to God for, of what could be, of what circumstances could be in our lives. Our young people, and we had a couple of them in the back, the Hinson kids, they listen. I told our kids when we had our conversation that you ought to tell your parents thank you for providing a home and shelter and safe place, because these young people that we just saw at the orphanage, they would give their left arm to come over here and take your place, any child. They would literally do it and enjoy what we have. They would really do it. So, but it wasn't all bleak. One day, Pastor wanted to go to a safari. And so I said, man, I'm not going to safari, because when we went to a safari in 2000, the last time I was there, they wanted to play with the lions, and they wanted to play with the baboons, and they wanted to play with the hippopotamus. Man, y'all get me out of this place. So they were like, let's go. I said, I'm not going with you. Pastor Days had the nerve to say, if you don't go, I'm going to go back to Land City and talk about you. I said, that's the wrong thing you could have used, Deacon Ransom. You're going to go back to Land City and talk about me anyway. So that was the wrong threat. I'm not worried about that threat. So we made a compromise. We went to a giraffe zoo. We went to see, what's his name from Toys R Us? Jeffrey. We went seeing Jeffrey. Now notice, if you will, I'm taking pictures from where? Behind. I don't need to be next to giraffes. See, that's why I don't need to be next to him. Giraffe, that's Reverend Kwame. Feed him. Come on, you can feed the giraffes. No, thank you. I'll take pictures. You know, Pastor Days has a farm. I've told y'all before. He's feeding. Come on, Pete. Feed the giraffe. No, thank you. I'll take pictures. And when they stick their tongue out, their tongue is like a long green. I don't want that touching me. Y'all might as well be real this morning. And so it was a park full of giraffes, and they come right up on the people, and the people just having a good time. And I'm standing back taking pictures. That's one further out in the woods. That's another one further out beyond the trees. And now it was a giraffe zoo, but there was also giraffes and these little things. What they're called, warthogs. Y'all know what warthogs is? Do you remember that? Tsutsuba Makata or whatever. So every time I seen them, I almost started Tsutsuba Makata. It was just, it's giraffes and warthogs, and they're the only things in this park. So we did have a time to just take a moment and really see some of the goodness. I didn't want to see too much, because it was enough for me seeing the giraffes from a distance taking pictures. So we went there. We did some work. We went to the orphanage. That was some work. And one thing, I'm going to show you this. At the orphanage, they still cook with coal. And coal is not environmentally friendly. But that's what they cook with. Along the streets, as you're driving down the streets, there's different people who are selling it for people to cook with and use as fumes. This little two-burner item is a new development that uses ethanol. In those two bottles, they're filled with liquid ethanol, not gasoline, but ethanol. And they use that as fuel to cook on. And so Reverend Rubaderi's daughter, not Vicky, what's her name, babe? Mabel, his youngest daughter, works for this company. And the company is named, I'll go back to that, Coco Soba. And they make these little two-cooker units using this ethanol for, number one, environment, but also so people can cook and not be subjected to those fumes from the charcoal. Now, when you buy one of these cookers, you get those 2 bottles of ethanol. And one full bottle will last you a week to cook. So 2 bottles will last 2 weeks. Now, how much do you think that unit costs? American money. 100? 20? $10. And so we immediately, we on our way, after we had left the orphanage, we stopped fast, we saw Mabel. We were trying to buy some. We wound up going to one of their stores that they have outside of the village, outside of the area where the orphanage was. And they had the machine where people were coming in to get refills for their bottles, but they didn't have any more units. So we had to order 2, pay for them to be delivered to the orphanage the next day. Then we made a commitment to send 100 of them back after we got back. Pastor Days took care of that on that, and we bless God for Second Baptist Atlantic City. Amen. He took that offering. I told him we covered the school. They took the offering, and they sent back 100 cookers to be given out by a women's ministry over there to parents, to women who need these type of utensils to help cook for their families. Because it's not only just cooking, but it's helping them environmentally and their health. Because that charcoal, you shouldn't be inhaling that stuff. So they're still doing that. And so we were grateful that Mabel took us around and showed us how the machine works. This is a refilling machine. And in the local neighborhoods, this machine is sort of like an ATM machine. If you have the cooker and you have your bottles, when your bottle is empty, you go back to the store and you just put your bottle on. Their bottles are the only thing that can fit into the machine. You can try to break into it, change it. You won't get anything out because their bottles are specifically designed to refill only. So while we were at the store where we were hoping to buy a couple for the orphanage, kids were coming in with their bottles, and they were getting 2 shillings worth, $1.50, which is only like a quarter of a bottle. So we were just like, fill them up, fill them up, fill them up, because, to watch a kid come in and only fill up, that the quarter of the bottle is only going to last 2 days. And we got money in our pocket, fill them up. And this is what we do when we really support, and we can take efforts and buy some of these machines, but make sure they get into the proper hands of the people through people on the ground that we know who are legitimate and for real. Not going through organizations who will take so much money off the top. This is just showing some stats about the ethanol and the different ways. And now also, when they come to refill their bottles, no cash is exchanged. Yes, even in Africa, they got cell phones. Everybody has a cell phone. So when you come to the machine, you give your bottle to the attendant. He puts in your code. Everybody has a code. He puts in your code. You tell him how much you want, and they fill it up. Now we bless God. The store we're at, this one guy, they had their code, and they needed something. He would do it for them on his code. If they came in with a bottle and didn't have a code, he would put his code in, and they just pay him. And that's a blessing. Doesn't have to do it, but it was somebody being a blessing. So again, we have ovens, 4-burner stoves, these great grills, and George Foreman, and this and that. We got everything we want. And they don't have a simple basic stove. $10. And some of us would have a struggle. See, I never ask for funds when I request anything. I just always say, give as the Lord has blessed you. But seeing stuff like this makes you realize he's blessed you more than what you thought, doesn't it? It makes you think, okay, what can I do? And I don't say for everybody to go do something individually, but we make a more impact collectively. But so when you think about $10, oh, I'm not giving $10, but we will waste $10 doing things, buying things, buying drinks, non-alcoholic, of course, but doing anything we want to do. But yet thinking about, when we talk about giving someone $10, that's too much to give. Think about how good God has blessed. So we went there and did that work. Then we were able to fellowship again with Kwame, and that's Mabel, his daughter, who worked for the company with the cookers. That's his wife Emmy in the flower color shirt, and that's his other daughter Victoria. Now Victoria was the #1 newscaster in Kenya. She was on TV in Kenya. Everybody knew her, and everybody knows her father, Reverend Kwame. But even on this night, as we were celebrating Kwame's wife's birthday, The second night, Kwame had us scheduled from sunrise to sundown. But what happened, her birthday was a week before. She held off till we got there because we hadn't seen each other in many years. We celebrated her birthday. And Victoria, his daughter, advised us that night she was leaving Kenya News and signing up with CNN as the National Africa correspondent. So we are so very proud. We are so very proud. Vicki has a daughter here in the States, in Georgia, who's going to college. And as a matter of fact, we talk about Nasuma Makata. It was her daughter's tape that I took and watched The Lion King, her cartoon tape, back when we were in Second Baptist of Lang City. So we're just, happy, glad, proud of them. This was a training we went to, held at Sedum Church, where Pastor Rubadiri is an assistant pastor. And this was a training through Pan-Africa Christian University. And Sedum has a campus there. And on this specific day, I think this was around day 3, it had to be. Day 3. Kwame said, well, we're just going in. You don't have to say a word. Okay, so Kwame, do we need the jackets? And no, you're not doing anything. Okay. And then when we get there, these are all chaplains who are being trained. So I don't think some of you know, when I was a police officer, I was a police chaplain for the last about 5-6 years. And so talking to Kwame, and when he told us what the program was, I said, I used to be a chaplain in the police department. Kwame gets up, and we have some guests, Pastor Days and Pastor Peterson. Come on up. And Pastor Peterson used to be a police chaplain. Thank you, Kwame. Thank you. So we were able to share with them. They were having their final closing ceremony. Now, interesting, they're chaplains. Their chaplains do what our chaplains do. They help the police department. I helped develop the chaplain program around here when I moved here. Carneys Point, Penns Grove, helped them develop a chaplain program, Salem. They assist in police notifications. If somebody dies, fatalities, they help with the police. They do that there too. They go to hospital visits. Our chaplains here do that. They attend community functions. Our chaplains here do that. Kenya, Africa, this is what we don't do. They're chaplains. Guess where else they go? To the schools. Every school has a chaplain. And yet we still allow one little lady who started a petition to take prayer out. Now, prayer ain't never left school. Prayer has always been in there. Trust me, because of taking that test. Lord, you got to help me get through this test. Prayer ain't never left. But the fact that they talk about something taking religion out of school. And we look at the condition of our world now. But yet they also go into schools. And I thought that was really a blessing. And so we just share with them. The one thing we share from our dissertation research was just to make sure they take care of themselves. Because care providers, when you give care to other people, you have to really take care of yourself. Because you're no good to nobody else if yourself is not okay. So we just shared that briefly with them and took part in their graduation ceremony. The great part of the day was us going to ICC on Sunday. I'm almost done. On ICC on Sunday, this was one of the churches. This is Nairobi Baptist Church. There in the city. Not your regular small building, huh? But we worship with ICC, with Bishop Gibson on Sunday. And on that day, Reverend Rubadiri, even though he goes to Sedum, he's like a part of ICC. Everybody loves Kwame. And so he more or less was the worship leader that day. Now, this was the first time I've seen in person a drive-by baptism. Reverend Rubadiri called off. He had about a list of 20 people. He's on the stage. The baptismal pool was behind him, and there was a preacher in the baptismal pool. They baptized about 20 people in 4.5 minutes. They went through the whole thing. We baptized you in the name of the Father. Dip, out, gone. They were dipping them. I just thought it was amazing. I was really cracking up. I was laughing. But they baptized 20 new converts. Pastor Day spoke here at ICC, the main campus, on Sunday morning. And Pastor delivered the word on that morning, preaching to the people and our brothers and sisters there in Nairobi out of Psalms. And he did a dynamite word. Now, they have church 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 12 o'clock. 8, 10, and 12. So I was there for the 8 o'clock service. And then after the 8 o'clock service ended about 9:15, 9:30, a driver took me to preach at the church I was preaching at. But this was the 8 o'clock service attendance. Again, nice church, beautiful sized church. And by the time Pastor got up to preach, this place was packed. Packed. When I left to go preach where I preached at, when I came back for the 12 o'clock service, the streets were so full, I said to the driver, where are these people coming from? They're coming from church, where you're going back to. 3 services, full. I think they had the pandemic over there. They had COVID over there. But the folks are back in church. We love y'all, virtual space. We love you. But full. And let me show you one great thing that happened there that morning. If I have it on here. I hope I do. Young people. An enormous amount. They're not here. But they had about, this was their, they have some of this, which I talk about. This was their praise team. And they have about a 20-minute, excuse my term, show before the worship. A lot of high energy, jumping and singing and shouting, praise and worship. Let me be churchy. They have their praise and worship for about 20 minutes. Excellent, though. Great singers, great service, and the people, again, like I say, they fill the place up. They show up for church. Nothing stopped them. So I'm transported to the church I'm preaching at. The church I'm preaching at was not ICC Main Temple, but it was a campus at Nuong campus. That's the name of it, Nuong campus. And I was preaching in a tent. Upon our arrival, this was the tent. Probably about 15, 20 people there. So they brought me in and set me up front. So I'm just taking pictures, just trying to, mark down what we're seeing. I didn't realize my mug was all up in there, taking the mug shot. But I'm just, taking shots just to see folks and see how many folks. So it was about 20 people there. Now, you see the tent, right? So this is the pastor. He actually went to college here. He graduated from University of Iowa and was probably here about 8, 9 years. Now he's back, and they just opened up this new campus. Before he got up to introduce me, this was the praise team. Now, it's different than the other one. Remember, the other one had the big praise team on the stage? This is again, they're just starting. They're in the tent. And so the praise team did the songs. After the praise teams got done, pastor came up, told the folks where I was from, and introduced me to come preach. But before I got up to preach, they had a song again, right? They called up their youth choir. Now, we love our young people in church, right? And we don't have a lot. We thank God for those parents that are bringing them out. We're encouraging other parents to bring them out, other parents to bring them to participate because they need to be here. Now, mind you, I told you, I'm around the corner from Gadua, right? From that real bad area. And it just rained real bad that night. They called their youth choir up to sing. They called the youth choir up to minister. One had boots on because they had to walk through the mud. They had their little shoes and slippers on. But they're in church. Where are our kids at? Why aren't they here? Their parents brought them to church. They didn't send them, they brought them. Because by the time I got up to go preach, when I stood up and turned around, the tent was full. With all the mud outside that they had to walk to church in, the tent was full. With it might even been raining, the tent was full. Being around the corner from a low-income area, a poverty-stricken area, the tent was full. How are we really worshiping God here? Are we giving our all to God because he's God and he's just great? Or are we just going through the motions? I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'm just saying think of what can we render unto him? And how should our worship to him be? So we were blessed by God to be able to share a message with them. And listen, when you're there, I did not have an interpreter this time because most of them speak 3 languages. English, Swahili, and something else. Most of them all. we're the only ones who speak one language and think everybody's supposed to know what we're talking about. But I did not need to have an interpreter because they understood English. And when I'm here to tell you they talked back to me, they made me feel real good. I didn't have to say amen. They was talking back to me, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And so the pastor, he said to me, listen, we've been here now, temporary. We're looking to buy a building. And he said, brother, we want you to come back. I said, man, listen, I got to come back just for the building, come back just for fellowship. And we want you to come over. So, again, when we make these connections, we can have an impact. We can make a difference throughout the world. So, we had a great service with them, a great time of fellowship, and time to make a difference into the lives of people. On our last day on Monday, that was Sunday, Bishop took us out, and that's when we went to that, that beautiful place and had that awesome time of fellowship on the last night just to look over the beauty of Kenya. And let me tell you something. It really reminds you to show you the connection. Before I went to Kenya in 2000, I was like, if I ever go there, we hit a motherland, this and that. But literally, we're connected. We're from there. We're from there. In Africa, over here, folks are late. But over in Africa, they just have time. And so since they just have time, they don't rush. They get there, they show up, but they do it in time. But it's such a wonderful experience. And I'll say it again, I've probably seen about 10, 15 people who look like people here. So we're related. We are connected. And it's more than just a notion. And we encourage really anyone, pray on it. And think about if you really have a desire to do mission work. If you have a desire to go into the field, think about going with us when we go again. And if the Lord allows, we'll be going back again next year. And to do some more great work, to go back to that orphanage, to see them young people, to see their progress, and even make an impact. And we'll be doing it even in between. So remember, when we talk about missions for our church, we're not talking about wasting money. We're talking about making a difference. Yet, we do international missions. We also do domestic. We also send to that first fruits to help those who are in recovery. And we always have, because of our contribution to them annually, they always make bed available to us here at Second. So anybody who needs assistance, family, friends, loved ones, when they're tired of being tired, come to us. We have connections because of the grace of God. But God really blessed us, family, and we were able to go over there and have a good time of fellowship, to experience some great things, and then see them where Reverend Rubadiri is. This is their church. This is not the church that we preached at on Sunday or pastored, but this was Reverend Rubadiri's home church. And we were here this last day on Monday because he told us that they want to do an interview with Pastor Days. So I'm cool. So I'm dressed down, ready to get on the plane, come home. But when we get there, he says we want to do an interview with both of y'all. Kwame, not again. He got me 3 times. And we did an interview with one of the local radio hosts. And you can find this interview on YouTube or on our website. If you go to our website, you can see it's called Adam's Cave. And he interviewed us about a half hour, 45 minutes. If you get some time, go to our website, and you can see the entire interview on our website, or you can pull it up on the YouTube with us. And so we were blessed. We did this interview on Monday, and when we landed in New York on Tuesday, Reverend Rubadiri texted us and said it was being broadcast across Kenya on Tuesday evening. And so your pastor was on TV in Kenya, y'all. I don't want to be on TV here. I was on TV in Kenya. So if you haven't had a chance to check it, and we were just talking about different things and, some men's issues and just life and the differences and some of the experiences that we have. And so if you get time, just check out the interview. And any questions? Any questions? Well, we let me say, first of all, second, and those of you who support, thank you for your support for missions. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I wanted to show you this and give this presentation to let you know I didn't go away just to have a good time and fun, but we went away to do work. We went away to make a difference, because there's a difference to be made in the world by who? Us. And listen, you don't have to go. You don't have to go, but you can support those who do go, right? There's different organizations that will, on TV, they'll ask you to send their money and stuff. I don't fool with those because when I was there the first time, I only saw one organization who was really doing the work on the ground, and I'll say their name, that was World Vision. They were making a difference in the lives of people. I will say those other organizations, you know who they are? They were over there living like kings and queens. And that's not the work of a mission. It's not the work of us to go over there and flaunt, but it's the work of us in mission to go see if we can make a difference, spreading the gospel through the message of Jesus Christ and our good deeds. And so pray on it. If the Lord so inclines, you join us as we go. I believe Pastor's ready to go back to Africa in probably about 3 or 4 weeks. He travels before the pandemic. He was always over there. But now that I finished school, we're looking to go back yearly, and prayerfully, Lady Steph will be going with us for one day. And but pray, and if the Lord says yes, let us know. On average, the trip costs somewhere around $2,500, depending on when we can get tickets and flights and information like that. We've learned some lessons, but it was a great time. Even, and I'll say again, even in the trouble we had getting out of here and leaving, God was still in operation. Amen. And so we serve a wonderful, awesome God. And we thank you for supporting us as we want and supporting the requests that we make when it comes to missions. Because listen, I'm not fooling with God's money. Nor do I want to hear him say, when I was sick, you didn't visit me. When I was hungry, you didn't feed me. When I was thirsty, you didn't give me nothing to drink. And when did I do that? When you did that to the least of these, you would do. I don't want to hear that. So I want to make a difference. How I can, when I can, where I can, to his glory. Amen? Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brother Gibson.